Howdy y'all, and welcome back to I Am Abled, my series where I talk about all things I love about the Olympics and Paralympics. Today I wanted to talk to you about one of the biggest differences between the two, besides the obvious. You see, an Olympic athlete, when announcers talk about them, you'll hear ages starting, oftentimes, in their mid, sometimes even early teens. It's much more uncommon for them to start in their mid to late 20s. And they'll usually retire by their late 20s, sometimes their mid 30s. But it's very uncommon to see athletes compete in the Olympics in their 40s and 50s, unless of course we're talking about equestrian and shooting sports, which do sometimes have that older age demographic involved in it. On a whole, that's pretty much what you're going to see. In fact, when you hear them talk about athletes who reach their late 20s, even their early 30s, you'll hear the announcers say that, their teammates call them mom and dad, and if they're in their late 30s, they call them grandma and grandpa. As someone who's 38, that just gets a little cringy after a while. In the Paralympics, that's kind of switched on its head a little bit. It's not that they start in their 50s or anything, but in the Paralympics, you'll see a lot more athletes beginning their Paralympic careers in their mid to late 20s, sometimes even not until their 30s. And they have longer Paralympic careers. You have some athletes who are in the Paralympics for their 5th, 7th, and even 9th time. And medaling, mind you, not just showing up. And to me, that's mind-blowing. But there's a pretty valid reason for the discrepancy between the age, at least for the starts, of Olympians and Paralympians. And at least in my observing, one of those big differences has to do with when you start your training. You see, for Olympics, if you're an able-bodied person and you like sports, you're going to get into training for a sport pretty young. Some athletes even started training as young as 4 and 6 years old for the Olympics. And then they're able to achieve their goals, their dreams, starting at age 14, 16, 18 years old. It's very common. And then they put so much of themselves into it, and the field is so difficult that by the time they're in their mid-20s, they reach a bit of a burnout or inability to keep up with the field. And also sometimes their college career gets in the way. They actually want to go on and do something different and provide for their family in a different way. In the Paralympics, a different kind of mentality begins with how these athletes started their training. Not all of them, but some of them. You see, a lot of Paralympians, not all, but a lot, didn't become disabled until later in life. Some of them even 1 or 2 years before their very first Paralympics. And so there's two things happening here. Number one, they may never have been involved in sport before, and it became part of their rehabilitation training, and now they're getting into sports and they're actually pretty good at it for whatever reason, and they're able to actually place well in the Paralympics. Number two, you have athletes who didn't really do training to become an athlete younger in life because unfortunately there's not a whole lot of talk about the Paralympics, even within the disabled community, even within the rehabilitation community, which is kind of a shame because doing sports can be really good mentally and physically for a disabled person. The freedom that you're able to feel through that and the validation that you actually can contribute in some way is such a great shift in your rehabilitation and recovery journey. But there's not a whole lot of talk about it. And there are Paralympians who have talked about the fact that they may have been disabled their entire life, and not until their late 20s did they even hear about how to get started in the Paralympics. And maybe they were doing athletic things beforehand, but didn't know there was actually a sport that they could compete in because they didn't think with their disability, they'd have a chance at that. So you see the starting years much older than the Olympians. The other thing that you see, like I said earlier, possibly is their careers span longer, typically. Now, not 100%. Some of them are still only 1 or 2 Paralympics for athlete, but there are many athletes that when they show up to their first Paralympics, the conversation is not, wow, this amazing athlete who's expected to win a medal this year, but rather, wow, this is a great starting point. They can really learn a lot so that next Paralympics they can come back and really have a contention for gold. And you'll see a lot of Paralympians who are there for their, not just first and second, but third, fifth, seventh, and I even saw someone there for their 9th Paralympics. And they're not just there to show up and, maybe place somewhere near the bottom. No. This 9-time Paralympian won a medal. I wish I could remember which medal they won, but they won a medal 9 times. Now, think about the fact that these are held every 4 years. Multiply that by 4. That's how long they've been a top athlete in the disabled community. That's pretty awesome. I just love the conversation shift. I love, as a slightly, I guess, older person for the sport world, at 38, being able to actually hear not just someone show up who's around my age to the Paralympics, but actually really do well and earn medals and be seen as an actual contender. I think that's really cool. And I think it really shows people that they don't have to just give up and sit back down. And I think it's really fun to watch. It's fun to watch the shift between the Olympics and the Paralympics and the way they talk about athletes, and their respect for the age and their training. And I don't know, it's just really cool. It's really cool to watch. And there are athletes like our badminton team, awesome badminton team. We got in the gold medal match for the first time across Olympics or Paralympics, and we didn't win. We got silver, but yay, we got silver. They're only in their teens right now. They're one of the youngest competitors for Team USA. And the guy on the team is 18 years old. I don't know how old the gal on the team was, but I know they were both teenagers, which means not only are they really good players, but the chances of them being able to come back and compete in LA is very high. As long as their health can keep up and they can keep their strength as athletes as high as they are now, there's a strong chance they could return. And since they're so young, theoretically they could return for several. Who knows? Oksana Masters, I mean, she's won in both Winter and Summer Olympics, 2 sports in each. She's won medals in. It's mind-blowing. And I just hope that y'all can have as much fun watching the Paralympics as I am. And maybe something can inspire you. And who knows, maybe you can find a sport that you can get involved in too that you just thought you would never be able to do. Okay, ciao for now. Thanks for watching, and keep on enjoying the Paralympics with me, I hope. God bless. Bye.